work very hard to get marginalized talent into the industry, to protect them the way that we would want to have been protected, to lift them up, and to get them into an industry where they're too often shut out. And basically, I think to take over.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Comic Crow, occasional YouTuber, occasional gamer, and I've been wanting to talk about the Sweet Baby Inc. situation for a little bit, but I honestly had no idea where to even begin, because it seems like every day or every other day something else happens, some other piece of news gets thrown into the cycle over Sweet Baby Inc., and it's just more and more and more and more and more. Well, the recent update is actually two things. One I have on the screen right now, which is the co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc. responding to what's been going on. And, you know, spoiler alert, he just gaslights the ever-loving hell out of everyone. But before I jump into that and the other part, I want to just talk about how this whole situation began. And it really starts with a writer for Sweet Baby Inc. known as Chris Kindred. Now, Sweet Baby Inc. was already sort of on the radar for people because of the just absolute trash fire release of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which, you know, has all the problems of a, you know, live service game, but also had just god-awful writing. And to see that come out of Rocksteady Studio, which had brought us the Arkham series, it really just caused a lot of fans, especially fans of those games, to take a second look and go, what happened? What changed between the release of Arkham Knight and the release of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? And Sweet Baby Inc. would be the one factor that's new in that equation. And whether or not they were 100% the reason why, or even 50% of the reason why, they were on people's radar. And that led to a person known as Cumbrutus on Twitter, or X now, to make a Steam curator, which all it did was go to Sweet Baby Inc.'s own website and then take the games that they listed and then create a curator group saying, hey, let's just not play these games. That's it. Chris Kindred, who is a writer for Sweet Baby Inc., saw this and decided to take it upon themselves to urge and push people to start reporting his account. And listen, let me zoom in a little bit for you guys on this so you can read it out in full. The Steam curator harassment group Sweet Baby Inc. detected is led by this person, Cumbrutus Rambo. Here's them trying to be slick so they don't get reported. Even with the discriminatory language off, the group still fails the code of conduct. Now, let's be very clear. Brutus did not use any type of derogatory language, okay? They did not fail the code of conduct. Brutus actually went and got Valve to state that, hey, there's nothing wrong with this curator group, because there isn't. I mean, it's really hard to say that there's anything wrong with a curator group that only says these people are involved with these games and that is it, right? Like that's all it is. So Chris got really, really, really big butt mad and said, anyway, report the fuck out of this group, right? Telling people to go and start a harassment campaign against Cumbrutus and the Steam curator group. But not only that, and report the creator since he loves his account so much. So this was this Chris person being incredibly vindictive and petty and outright encouraging a targeted harassment campaign and telling their followers to go out and target this guy. Now, obviously, epic backfire, right? The Steam curator group has, I think as of right now, 261,000 followers. Right? When Chris pointed this group out, I think it had maybe 5,000 people involved. This is one of the biggest backfires I think I've ever seen. Well, you know, obviously there's more to this Chris person. In the video we did just a few days ago, we talked about how they just outright insulted Toriyama on the day that people found out that he had passed away. Right? So this Chris person's just an awful human being, right? Just an awful, terrible human being. There's no way around that one. And it's their awful and terrible actions that have caused, like, potentially the start of Gamergate 2. And I know Gamergate is a loaded term, but the thing is, this right now, it feels a lot like, we're in another Gamergate situation, and I've even started to call it Gamergate 2. And of course, as with the last Gamergate, we have the no ethics in journalism game journalist coming out and basically running defense and deflecting on behalf of Sweet Baby Inc. And look, I could understand, even though I completely and wholeheartedly disagree with their opinion, that this is somehow a harassment campaign against, a company. But they refuse to even mention what was done by the Sweet Baby Inc. employee, Chris Kindred. They will not mention that Chris openly started a targeted harassment campaign against a Brazilian guy just making a Steam curator group. That's it. That's the big naughty no-no. But the fact that you see people like Game Developer, Kotaku, I think PC Gamer was involved in one of these, but they're coming out and talking about how evil and bad and awful the quote unquote far right harassment campaign people are against Sweet Baby, whatever, while absolutely refusing to talk about the actual issue that caused all of this. Now, this is the senior editor for Game Developer. We reached out to Valve in Discord multiple times to ask how a group using their platform to target a company was within the bounds of their terms of service. No answer back yet. And see, listen, I don't know too much about the Discord group. I assume it's fine. I know that the Kotaku quote-unquote journalist jumped in there to try to point out how evil and bad and racist and misogynist or whatever they all are. Mind you, the majority of the people I keep seeing going after the people against Sweet Baby Inc., it's like a lot of white people, like a lot, like almost all of them. It's pretty funny. It really is. Anyways, listen, there are so many different ways for this situation to have just been completely dropped down, like to get it to just die out entirely. And that would have been for websites like Game Developer, like Kotaku, to say, hey, listen, the employee started a targeted harassment campaign. That's not okay. That's never okay. But also trying to get people not to buy games because this company is involved is stupid or wrong or blah, 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 whatever, right? Because, listen, while I don't agree with that type of narrative approach, at least you could maintain some level of integrity because you're calling out clearly wrong and bad behavior. So at this point, there's no getting away from it. Like, you didn't want to talk about it for 2 weeks, while at the same time, writing all these articles attacking the curator group and attacking the guy that made it. So yeah, I mean, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. We all saw it. Everybody has seen it. But then you have, the second part of this, which is Twitter is no longer a place where a lot of these people have connections with the staff or the moderators, and they can get certain content pulled down, or certain things will be shadow banned because they just don't follow a certain narrative. That's all gone, right? The control over Twitter/X or whatever, it's gone now. You're not ever going to get that back. So trying to do this in an era where you really have no control over the narrative is insane to me. It really is. I've seen multiple journalists supporting Sweet Baby Inc. get community noted. So everybody can see what's going on in real time. And this idea that, we're going to go back into another Gamergate, I mean, I'm kind of like, well, let's do it. Let's see. And I think these people want it too, right? I think that they really do want it. And I'll explain with this next one. So this is TakeThis.org, right? Or TakeThis, whatever the hell they're called. Hate, harassment, and toxic behavior have no place in games. By taking direct, targeted action in a timely manner, we can mitigate further harm to talented, dedicated folks in games and help prevent additional recurrences of these harmful events. TakeThis, okay, is fully on the side of Sweet Baby Inc., is not mentioning their employee leading a targeted harassment campaign, is not mentioning just how badly they handle PR with a lot of people, and doesn't even mention how like awful most of their employees are, right? Like, we've got we've got a couple of examples of just how nasty some of these people are, right? But TakeThis, okay, is also pushing the idea of this being Gamergate too. And what else is like kind of insane to me is TakeThis is, and this might sound like, oh, terrible far right conspiracy theory, yada yada yada. No, TakeThis is straight up funded by the Department of Homeland Security. They are funded by the DHS. Okay, that's the crazy part of this story, right? And I don't want to get into too much of a political conversation, but I think a lot of us have noticed that over the past, I don't know, like let's say 7-ish years, there's been a lot of talk about white male rage and everything, and all this other crap, and the rise of white supremacy and all. And believe me, it's all in the TakeThis garbage. As a Muslim with a black wife, I find it hilarious how many white people are screaming that this movement against Sweet Baby Inc. is a bunch of white supremacists or whatever. But anyways, the point is, I don't understand why there is such a push to reignite the wars of Gamergate. I really don't understand why the other side is as active in trying to push it. And a part of me thinks that, because it worked 10 years ago, and it did work for them 10 years ago, that they're convinced that it's all going to play out the exact same way. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, you guys have zero control of the narrative. You have, the entirety of Twitter and X, going against you. You have community notes pointing out that you guys are not bringing up the actual targeted harassment that was brought on by one of the employees. It seems like such a stupid idea. It's going to blow up. It's going to continue to blow up. Again, the Steam curator group had the employee of Sweet Baby Inc. never mentioned it. And this is not to be disrespectful to Brutus who made it, but I don't think it would have gone past 10,000 followers had that employee not started a targeted harassment campaign and been called out by the entirety of the internet. But that brings me to the co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc., David Bedard. For the past 4 months, my company, Sweet Baby Inc., has been targeted by a far-right harassment campaign / conspiracy theory. Now, I would not say for the past 4 months anyone has been talking about Sweet Baby Inc. Again, the release of Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League started a bit of that conversation, but it did not begin like the levels and the waves of people turning against this company did not start until their own employee attempted to create a targeted harassment campaign, and there was no condemnation from Sweet Baby Inc. whatsoever. Had they have done that, by the way, all of this would have died out, right? There still would have been people bitching about Suicide Squad, but they would not have any ground to stand on had the company just rightfully terminated the employment of the person who started the targeted harassment campaign and publicly condemned their behavior. This is a tough situation for me, my co-founder Kim Belair, our entire team, and our collaborators. More than the frustrations caused by the harassment and the precautions we're putting in place as a result of that, the toughness comes from the fact that this entire campaign is based on misinformation. Misinformation so wild and left field, or right field, I guess, that it's impossible to even engage with it to combat it. Well, I mean, first off, maybe stop lying. Maybe stop lying about what you've done. Maybe stop lying about what the other people are doing. Because again, and I say this as many times as I can, yes, there are going to be people who believe like insane shit, right? Like, listen, the fact that TakeThis, which is like no shit, funded by the Department of Homeland Security, is getting involved. Well, that's going to start like actual conspiracy theories from going off. But before all of that, the problem was one of Sweet Baby's own employees started this shit. They tried leading a targeted harassment campaign, and Sweet Baby, rather than condemn it, they started with this whole nonsense of how they're the real victims here. And that pisses people off. Like, it really pisses people off. And so now we're here where, oh, it's misinformation and yada yada yada. So no, it's not misinformation. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's what's been happening. Right? It's what they've been doing. So we spoke with press to clear things up about exactly what we do and how we do it. Adding our voices to this conversation felt necessary because what is happening to us is something that has happened before in this industry and will happen again. It happens not just us, but also to countless other devs, players, journalists, and creators. And see, that's this part I love because basically they went to their buddies in the gaming press and went to friendly outlets who would just parrot their own talking points and not bother to talk about what their own employees have been doing. So, yeah, like, I think it's funny. And also the part where, oh, this has happened before. This idiot is pushing the idea of this being Gamergate too. So, look, as much as they say, oh, Gamergate was so bad and awful and mean and terrible, they're actively pushing for another Gamergate. Everyone who has reached out to me with kind words of support has also asked me what they can do to help, and it took me a while to find an answer to this question, but I think I finally know. Is it, tell the truth? Is it call out the bad behavior within your own group before you start pointing the fingers at everybody else? Of course not. This is what you can do to help. Check in on your marginalized colleagues and friends in this industry. Make sure they're okay. Why the marginalized colleagues? I only ask that because, like, primarily the people that have been pushing this nonsense, it's been like mostly white people. It's been mostly white people, like a lot of white people, and a lot of the people that are like complaining about Sweet Baby Inc. are dudes like me, like actual fucking minorities who are like straight up pissed off. I think I've like commented 3 times now. Why is it always a white dude? Why is it a white dude screaming about the racism and the misogyny of the Sweet Baby Inc. curator group? Like, Jesus. I'm just saying, if anyone's taking the beating the hardest, it's the white people defending this shit. Like, it straight up is. Make sure they're okay, unless they're white. Let them know that they are loved, that they are appreciated, that they are welcome, and that they are talented. Tell them you're not going to let this kind of hate push them out of this industry. Tell them that things like this won't scare all their community away, that they are protected, and that they have a place here, now more than ever. So, just a giant virtue signal at the end. Again, none of this would be happening. None of this would be happening if you just terminated and publicly condemned your own employee who's obviously acting unhinged and crazy. I'd be really grateful if you did that. Well, I'd be grateful too. I'd be really grateful if people called out what Sweet Baby Inc. is doing, what websites like Game Dev are trying to pull to defend them, sites like Kotaku. Most of these press outlets involved in gaming, they don't really have any credibility. People click on those articles mostly because they hate them. So I really struggle to understand what the idea is. And I think it's mostly this. I think it's what this Bryant guy is trying to do. He's trying to levy enough pressure against Valve and Discord with the intent of getting those those companies to remove the Steam curator group and for Discord to completely ban their ability to organize. And I sit there and go, well, that's a temporary solution. But look, now we have communities on X. So you can just make a community against Sweet Baby Inc. or against wokeness in video games or whatever you want to call it. Like, there are other outlets now people can go to. So yeah, I think if you, in the short run, and I'm talking about in the course of maybe a day, getting Valve to drop the Steam group and getting Discord to ban them. Yeah, I think in the short term, for like a day, that's going to be effective. until, all the other YouTubers, websites like Fandom Pulse come out in full-throated support of them, and then they just make Twitter communities. And what are you going to do then? Like, you're going to whine and bitch to Elon Musk? I mean, go for it. Go for it. Anyways, guys, you tell me what you think, because this entire situation has been absolutely nuts. But also, like, to me personally, I think it's hilarious, and I really want to see how it all plays out. If this is Gamergate 2, let's fucking go.